Great. Welcome to Build Better webinar. My name is Anna Shabletsky. I'm CEO and founder of Instrumental, and Build Better is a sister media brand we have where we, for executives and leaders in electronics, manufacturing, and engineering to talk about the real problems and the real challenges they're facing and kind of where there's cross-industry learnings and cross-industry learnings and insights that we can all benefit from. So I'm here today with Lior Susan, who is the founding partner, one of the founding partners of Eclipse, and has a really interesting background. Eclipse is an investor in Instrumental. They led our Series A, and Lior specifically led our Series A. And I'm really excited to kind of get into his head about some of the insights he's had working with thousands of, probably hundreds, looking at hundreds of companies that are trying to get into the manufacturing technology space or similar physical industries. And this idea that you've kind of coined, I really like the name of it, the three-body problem for these physical industries. So we're going to get into that today. But maybe why don't you start by introducing a little bit of your background so our esteemed audience gets a sense of like whether they should take you seriously or not.
It's great to be here, and thanks for having me. And yes, we've been proud investors in Instrumental for quite a while. It is thousands.
You think it's thousands? Okay.
I'll give you a sense. This year, we'll see about 5,000 companies.
Yeah.
This year.
Yeah.
When I started Eclipse 10 years ago, we saw in that year 300 companies.
Okay.
So it's actually can give you the idea of like it's increasing.
And it's a significant portion are in these physical industries.
Exactly.
Specialty.
All physical. That status is actually all in our sector. So it's not anything that is not in our sectors. But a little bit of my background. I grew up in the military. I was at the Special Forces for quite a while. Then I left to do a company with my brother in the networking space that Cisco bought in 2012 and brought me here. And I met a gentleman named Mike McNamara, that was the CEO of Flextronics, and joined Mike to run and build for him the digital transformation team.
Yep.
So basically figure out how we are bringing technology inside our factories at Flex. And I was there for 3.5 years before leaving to start Eclipse.
Yeah. And so now Eclipse is almost 10 years old.
We are 10 years exactly.
Yeah. So 10 years old.
10 years old.
So over that period of time, you've seen thousands of companies now in the physical industries. And so I think also you've developed some interesting expertise, like obviously sitting on the boards of these companies and working deeply and closely with them around the challenges those companies are facing, bringing digital technologies, AI technologies, essentially new innovative frontier tech into physical industries. What made you believe that the time was right for physical industries to be re-architected as kind of the guiding principle behind Eclipse and what it is now really stands for as a firm?
Yeah, I think, it started with like my personal passion was always in the physical world. And I always, as a kid, likes to build things that was, actually my brother was a software hacker and I was building the stuff. So we kind of did this yin and yang relationship. And, as I moved to the Bay Area and worked in Flex, I was just puzzled by the notion that all of my investors' friends only can spell the word enterprise software. And I'm like, if you actually take it one step back and you look on the world GDP, 120, 130 trillion, about 85% is in physical industries.
Yeah.
That's your manufacturing, energy, defense, mining, etc.
Yeah, 50% is manufacturing alone.
Exactly, alone. And as you know better than me, is you cannot do it only with bits.
Yeah.
There's like a bits and atoms relationship, and it's almost like went away from Silicon Valley, that by the way called Silicon. So I thought it's supposed to be the atoms, but I just find that there is a massive gap on the investors base of how to actually build those companies, how to invest in them. And I was like, I cannot do anything else. And I couldn't find anyone else that wanted to do it. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be that person.
That starts it.
Yeah.
And I think that at the time that you started the firm, it was pretty contrarian. So there wasn't really any, there was maybe some firms who were like open to hardware investing, but there wasn't really very many who were like actually doing investments in these physical spaces. And I think now your portfolio is pretty wide. It spans like manufacturing technologies like Instrumental, Bright Machines. You have various like 3D, additive manufacturing companies, and amongst others,
Yeah.
like you cover the space.
Yeah.
What are some of the other general kind of physical industries that you put in that?
We have energy, defense, semiconductor, capital equipment, mining, construction, of course, a bunch of different manufacturing. So everywhere that the bits and atoms meet, we will be really interested.
It's an interesting space.
Yeah.
Got it. All right. So I know from my own experience building instrumental in the manufacturing space that the go-to-market motions and physical industries are frankly just very different than traditional SaaS. I've been chewing glass on that for the last 10 years. And I think you have some firsthand experience working on that problem too. I think that's a real problem in getting young companies off the ground, disruptive technologies, getting that into these markets. And that's why maybe these markets tend to be a little bit more lagging than others. And one reason might be that investors don't really invest in the early stages there. And so now you've seen, as you've said, thousands of companies, like 10, probably hundreds from the inside, but the thousands from the outside tackle this challenge. Are there any kind of patterns or learnings that you can share about the go-to-markets for these physical industries? And maybe this is where you want to talk about the three-body problem.
Yeah. First of all, I have this saying that you're definitely following that thread and going to win. But I feel like is this weird thing in physical industries that like don't die on your way to the glory.
That's just like strategy in general.
Just like
if you don't die, you'll be successful.
And by the way, you take the Nvidia story and the Tesla stores in the space, almost all of them had like this near-death experience, like 5, 6
successful company has had it.
Yes, yeah, totally. So I think first of all, that's a guide principles for me. It's like, okay, just survive another day to give it a fight. I think physical industries, because the TAM are so big.
Yeah.
And it's an existing TAM.
Yep.
So you're not actually net create a new business.
Yeah.
Manufacturing has been here around for a long time. So the risk tolerance for those industries is very different than what we're familiar from the world of software and enterprise software and fintech. Very, very different. And you need to know about it because that's actually going to drive how you do the go-to-market, knowing that the other person around the corners, his best tool is do nothing.
Yes, well, his safest option.
It's like, I'm not going to get fired by changing the status quo. Yeah. So that's kind of like something to always remember. The other thing that I feel is there's also very different in our sectors, and we've been seeing that across our portfolio. We have now in the portfolio, we have 85 companies. There is more than 10 of them, I can think of almost 11, that signed more than $1 billion each in a commercial transaction, on a single commercial transaction. Yeah. So actually, if you not die on your way to the glory, you build a moat, you will be able, because of the size of the market, if you can get the customers, you actually will be able to sign a significant commercial deals. But it's not start like that. Yeah. And it's really hard to get the ecosystems and the different parties, and maybe we dive in now to the three-body problems.
Yeah. So what is the three-body problem?
The problem with physical industries, again, not very different in software. In a lot of cases, is the customers is not running the operation.
Yeah.
Very simple.
There's a bifurcation.
And it sounds like almost like, oh yeah, how hard this can be. And it's like, you go automotive, there is a tier 1s.
Yeah.
You go contract electronics manufacturing, there is EMS and CMs. You go electronic design, there is an ODMs and JDMs. You go, and you and I, talked about it for many years and variety of areas. And you go to energy, there is IPPs versus energy generators. You go defense, there is a prime. Anyhow, in almost every industry, there is more than one party in you making a living.
Yeah.
And I find this thing being incredibly hard.
Yeah.
Because I can go and sell to Apple, but if I deploy inside Foxconn, let's just speak on that. If Foxconn don't want me to be successful, I will not be successful. Even if Apple will want that thing so much. Yeah. And Apple arguably is now the company in the world that can turn those suppliers to do whatever they want. So that's the top of the house. There is many other companies below it. I just find that I constantly thinking about the three-body engagement and how to, even if they are not my customers, how to make sure that they're incentivized to make me successful.
Yeah.
Preaching to that.
So the three bodies being the brand, the owner, the designer, the operations owner in manufacturing, that would be the EMS, JDM,
exactly.
model, and then the third body being the technology, innovation, frontier tech.
Exactly.
Trying to get into that market. And that is a factor I have learned recently because for a decade, we've spent our time selling into the brand side. I've also learned that now we've started doing some sales and deals directly into the EMS side.
Heads off.
And it is still a three-body process.
Still,
you don't get to cut out the customer because you're still impacting a customer operation. It's still the customer's data. So it's like it doesn't shortcut your way to providing it. And ultimately, I feel like, this kind of vindicates for the last 10 years, like chewing glass on selling to the brand, because the brand uniquely owns the supply.
Exactly. In your case, the manufacturing, they don't have product. So, and then they manufacture to someone else. Even if they are the buyer, that person going to have a say on security, IP, data, millions of other things that even if he's not paying $1 for it, he wants to have
he's gonna pay for it.
So
it all gets paid for. So, right?
Yeah, we see the value. I'll give you a recent example, not in that space. We have a defense companies and their customers is the DoD, and they are partnering with the prime.
Yep.
And I will tell you that they did not get an easy time from that prime at all. I would say literally hurting that company because the primes view them as potential future competitor.
I see.
Yeah. So it's really fascinating.
There's like co-opetition.
There is.
Sometimes that is like a different vibe. Whereas
there is.
In electronics manufacturing, it's pretty cutthroat. Although it's been interesting to see, in the
ODMs. Actually, ODMs are going up in the stack on the design, right? So
they are. But even just the cultural difference between selling to particularly large EMS providers that have multiple business units where they make consumer electronics products, but they also make networking products and automotive parts, and you're selling into these different business units, and the culture in those markets is totally different. In consumer electronics, they've all been ground down to 1/3 of a cent, so it's just like a very different grapple.
AI data center.
Everybody's looking through the meadow and wasting money, and so people are a little bit more open on all sides. So it's very interesting there. Okay, so we talked a little bit about why that makes it a little bit challenging because there's just three parties to have to deal with. Let's start from the positive side.
Yes.
Is that beneficial?
Huge.
To have three parties? How does that how is it a
my good dad Jeff Bezos phrase, hard is our moat.
Okay.
It's really hard for the second company to try to do it.
Yeah.
That's what you don't see in a lot of the industries that we originally operate. You don't see 20 companies doing the same thing.
So it's like category king.
It is in a lot of cases.
In all these verticals because the moat is
and the one that lives the longest and actually can get the momentum and the escape velocity is going to take a big part of the market.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't actually thought of it that way, but it does make sense.
I think about instrumental affairs, right? You had Keyence and Cognix, basically two companies owning, I don't know, $200 billion TAM of computer vision and inspection.
800 million.
Yeah, so it's incredible, right? Two companies.
Yeah.
Owning the entire sectors.
I mean, I think some other companies would say they have portions of it.
They're the main ones. Yes, they're the main.
Yes.
So it's very hard to do, but if you can do it and you can figure out the things, you will build a really big business.
What are the ways that it's harmful? The three-body problem that can be harmful not only to the technology side, but maybe let's also kind of shift our audiences is executives that run either operations, manufacturing teams, or engineering teams at electronics brands. So they're on that they're in that body. How is it harmful to them and their ability to deliver great products?
I mean, naturally significantly slow down innovation.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a reason that we are seeing productivity in a lot of those sectors either declining, not even going, declining in a lot of those places because kind of the reason in huge systems to get technology to go and help us. And listen, we live in Silicon Valley. We're seeing this incredible open AI stuff and things that you can run now those images into these incredible AI systems and find insights that we'll never be able to find that can impact the design of the future product. There's such an incredible opportunities that the immune systems of these three bodies is just stopping of getting in.
Yeah.
And if you cannot figure out and your competitors will, you will lose market share.
So like from a brand side, if you can't figure out how to get those
You will lose market share.
parties to
I would guarantee you.
and you'll fall behind.
I would guarantee you this.
Do you think like if you are sitting inside of a brand side kind of owner, that like the way that you solve this problem is building this in house, or is it the same problem? It's just like slightly different clothing for it. Because even if the innovation is coming from you, still a shoe body. Is that easier or?
I think there is a strategy to basically reduce the tree to two.
Yeah.
And I actually find that that strategy mainly works
Okay.
when the person that invented the technology also vertically integrated to the service.
Yeah.
So in your case, just picking up, if you had the most optimal electronics manufacturing in the world that you can run based on instrumental technologies, that will be the moat, and you will be able to compete in a level that will give you an advantage that the traditional folks cannot have. I do not see on the other side of your questions, I do not necessarily see the brands building in-house capabilities and trying to push it through their existing suppliers. I personally don't see it.
Particularly
I didn't see it.
I think a lot of companies have attempted various things.
Yeah.
But I think it's just really hard if your core technology is building this amazing device.
That's exactly my point.
To kind of bifurcate off people to go work on.
I don't think you can be experts in everything. And like, as a consumer electronics, let's say, or networking company, let's say, is their core business is to build computer vision AI? I don't think so.
Yeah. Makes sense. Let's see. What kind of shifting gears, and we just like using that theme of just mismatch of incentives and mismatch and alignment from the three-body problem. What are the biggest mismatches that you see today in the electronics manufacturing ecosystem, like between these bodies, like whether it's incentives or whether it's, even just their approach or culture?
I think there's three big, massive macro trends in electronics manufacturing.
Yeah.
You have the onshore.
Yep.
Basically, people want to move manufacturing to be close to their demands and also to be on their soil for security reasons.
Yeah.
I think this notion that you outsource something to China and forget about it is not gone, because China has just masterized it for 50 years and built massive infrastructure. But the notion that you do 100% of that, gone.
Yeah.
What percentage, we can debate. I think the second thing is move from a labor-based to a machine-based manufacturing. Basically, the entire sector is still, I think, 99% is humans doing those jobs. And I think in both our life, we're going to see the majority of that sector is being replaced by robots.
Yeah.
And that's a big, big shift, because the traditional players, their entire business is relying on people.
Yes.
And I struggle to see how they're going to make that change. Naturally, I'm drinking my own cola, so I believe we can solve it. But I would love for them to make that change.
Yeah.
I think it will be good for the industry overall.
Yeah.
And I think the third one is actually what you do is I think we are going to see a new data flywheel.
Yep.
From building the product to inspect the product to design a better product leveraging AI. And it is crazy that, and that stat is still some of the best manufacturing in the world don't stream live data. Till Tuesday, that I think is like wild.
Like put up with a 6-hour delay.
I mean, guys, we're not even talking about some AI. I'm talking about internet. This thing called the internet. So I think transparency.
It's by going from paper and pencil to like
PDFs once every 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours.
Still manually update.
Yeah. So I think we're going to see some big transformation of that.
Interesting. You mentioned these three kind of trends or like movement in the industry. As you think about like putting on your hat, you were an operations leader inside Flex. What should electronics manufacturing VPs or executives, whether they're on the brand side or on the CM side, be thinking about beyond just cost and scale? Like I find a lot that the very operational sides of these organizations, they have like numbers to hit and near-term goals, and it's very difficult to have a long-term view.
Yeah.
So what are some of the like longer-term views outside of just hitting a number that these executives should really be thinking about right now?
I mean, the brand people might not like my answer, but I do think this business needs to move from a cost plus
Yeah.
to a value based.
Okay, tell us more.
I mean, why to beat the supplier to death of a 2% operating profit and whatever is 5% gross margin, 6% gross margin, depends on the industry that you build, versus like, hey, if you can help me bring my yield 5 points on networking gear that go for AI, that's worth billions of dollars.
Exactly.
I will give you a cut.
Yeah.
Go incentivize your entire systems to improve my first pass yield, cycle times, and overall yield.
Especially in these supply constrained markets.
Yeah.
Top of the line AI, compute,
Yeah.
anything going in a data center.
But you see now more is because, yes, for sure, anything that go to a data centers, but I think, the whole electric vehicles and autonomous driving and robotic systems, there is now, and healthcare and defense, there's a lot of electronics that are not the cut to the throat, small consumer electronics, $50 bomb, that they're all about cost.
Yeah.
But that's actually what determined the entire business model today.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to change.
Yeah.
I do believe it needs to change.
We've experimented and thought about, because we get to decide how we price our product. Like, could we price a product like Instrumental that finds defects like on a bounty program?
Yeah.
But what happens when you do that? Meaning, like, we charge per defect, which is like for each, you get value when we have found defects.
The finance team.
That's right.
The finance team on the customer sides will jump on it. It's like, no.
Oh, and then it also disincentivize its use, because it's like the cost of it goes up when you use it, but when you use it, it's when you find the defect. So it's kind of an interesting thing. We've spent some time talking with various leaders and some of the other Build Better content about like the way the contracts are structured between the manufacturing partner, whatever that partnership model is, and the brand side, and that how some of those structures can actually actively disincentivize improvements like yield improvement.
Yes.
Because they're only based on how they're paying, et cetera. There's a set number that's kind of assumed, and they get ground down every quarter. They have to get improvements. But like, we talked with a leader at Logitech that their whole model is quite different in how they partner with the CM, so that they both benefit from those improvements together.
Smart.
And it just seems like for a decade that I've been working on this, like that has not really like changed very much. And most manufacturing partners are still really treated as commodity providers. And as a result, like the incentives, you can end up with incentives where like where there is not actually an incentive for the manufacturing partner to actually drive things that drive your top line.
Yeah. There's I have this view, and I don't know if I'm totally off, but I can't stop thinking about it. You take from fabrication, from wafer to packaging to front end to back end to the end product, and you're like, let's say we talk about building AI server, and almost everyone across that stack, minus the people that building the finished products and testing it before it goes to the data centers, actually have a significant margin to make.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? It's like really weird. Like, I can do great wafers. If it will not get into the product well in my assembly line, that product will never ship.
Yeah, you want like if
So
you yield the unit,
you will lose this entire thing.
you have to scrap the whole board.
Yeah, and my dream is like, I do want to see TSMCs of the electronics manufacturing. Like, it's happening in the semiconductor.
Yeah.
And they can make a great margin, they can be strategic partner, and they be treated like a frontier thought partners. It's not exist in the electronics manufacturing, and
Why do you think that is?
I'm very passionate to change it. I think a lot because of history.
Okay.
I think it started.
Like the culture that's kind of.
I think it's like heavy labor, low cost, all arbitrage, all China. I think now, as those three things we talked about will change, I think actually it might be an opportunity to create modern partner, modern CMs that hopefully can be in the discussion of a much more of a technology vendors that versus just someone that you beat on another sense of whatever value.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe make the pie bigger, and so then
100%. And actually, TSMC showed that in the semiconductor. So it's been done before.
Yeah.
And now they have IP blocks, and they're investing a good portion back to an R&D. is any of the CMs investing into R&D? They cannot.
I mean, they try, but these
Tiny.
are usually short-lived.
They can't. The public market will kill them. It's a value-based stocks.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that you've developed some personal expertise in over the last couple of years has been the compute infrastructure market and manufacturing of top-of-the-line AI systems or other compute system, trays, racks, things are going into data centers. I argue these are the most complex electronics being built at scale today. I can't think of something that could be more, and no one has presented something that could be more, just because the scale is there.
I think there's one thing.
Yeah.
Actually, the same complexity I saw in the worlds of space and satellites.
But do they build them at that scale?
No.
So
do by hand.
Yeah.
Do like artisan type of a building. But I'm like, guys, you built 5 of them. I need to build 50,000.
Yes, exactly.
So
or
yes,
in some projections, millions of trays to fill the data center demand. If you work backwards from just like the public announcements of the data.
And by the way, my sense on that, we are just in the beginning.
Yes.
We're not even scratching the surface of the amount of AI infrastructure that the world will need.
Yeah, well, I think I was looking at the numbers this morning, and it's just like significant portion of the world's data centers are in the United States, and a significant portion of the investment for AI data centers are in the United States. And like the rest of the world is gonna, also get on this train.
But then to take this great stat that I talked recently with a great AI leader, arguably the number one AI leader, when humanity roll out electricity, we invested every year roughly between 4.5% to 5% of the GDP of each country.
Wow.
US will invest this year on AI infrastructure 0.1%.
That seems surprising because it's so much money when you see all the announcements, but it makes sense.
They're small.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, do you believe AI will have a greater, same or less impact on humanity than electricity? I'm in the camp that more.
Yeah.
So, boy, we have a lot of racks to build.
The bubble can get a lot bigger, is what you're saying.
Yeah, actually, I disagree with the bubble notion.
Yeah.
I actually think, because bubble is a macro questions, and I think what people are talking about is a micro transactions.
Yeah.
From actually fundamental point of view, from jobs, productivities, new manufacturing, PMI, I'm really bullish on the economy. I don't think we are in a bubble. The other thing that someone smarter than me told me, if everyone's talking about the bubble, there's no bubble. It's usually coming and hit you when you're not surprised. Yeah.
To be surprised, but it makes sense. So given that expertise, what are some challenges in the compute infrastructure market that those that are maybe less familiar, maybe they make consumer devices or they make defense products, that they would be surprised to learn about? Unique.
The complexity, as you touched about those products, is incredible.
You want to share a little bit about how you think of the complexity?
You're talking micron accuracy, you talk high power, you talk so many cables, flexible materials, so many pins inside each of those connectors that needs to be exactly identically aligned. And then you put all of these sleds into this gigantic rack that in L11 needs to be connected again in the back with millions of cables, and that's all needs to actually work.
Yeah.
That the amount of opportunities of failure is so high. And by the way, that rack is $4 or $5 million. So you are talking about 10 Ferraris standing to each other. Well, Ferrari cost, I don't know, like you got the point. Whatever, I'm not a car guy, so whatever it is.
House,
yeah, exactly. Small power apartment. And you stand them in line and you hit them with baseball bats.
Yeah.
I recently had a stat that a lead contract manufacturing that building cutting edge AI equipment was stuck on 25% mature yield.
Yeah.
So they basically did 75% reworks.
Yeah.
After ramp.
Yeah.
That I was like, that's fucking insane.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, my friend. It's like the only vision I had was like people are standing with baseball bats and just hitting those very expensive cars. So we are going to enter here, and it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
Those products will get even more complicated.
Yeah.
Air cool, liquid cool. The other thing that is totally pushing this industry is the people don't talk enough. The amount of power you need in the factory to test those reps is incredible.
Yeah, and if your first pass yield is really low, which you said you know one that's 25,
Yeah.
I've kind of seen an industry range of like 40 to the best in the world is somewhere around 70-ish.
Yes.
Maybe there's someone I haven't met.
And you're coming from consumer electronics. They show up in a mass production in a 70, you filed me in the same day, first 5 days.
Yes, yeah, you consumer, you want to be around like 93-ish for like a high-end product, and mature yields, you're getting to 98, 99, right?
Yeah.
So, you're grinding down your
That's when the products that have hundreds of dollars of bombs.
Yeah.
We're talking about products that have hundreds of thousands of dollars bombs,
Yeah.
billions.
And like even just the ability to debug these things. So, we've seen kind of as an industry aggregating across multiple different companies, like to get, if you fail on the line, to get back like in, get back to a yielded unit, that retest process could be 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
So they're power limited in the factory. And how many racks
How many
you
times
can turn on at the same time, you're literally losing like significant portion of your test capacity just on your rework and bone pile.
Totally.
And so we've seen bone piles like in the billions, like with a B,
Yeah.
which is a very large pile units to get through, and inventory that's like on somebody's books.
Yeah. And time to market.
Yeah.
Because people are like, dude, I need it in the data center because we're already working on next gen.
Yeah. Yeah.
So actually the time that you have to use those products and generate the returns on investments for those brands is actually getting shorter and shorter.
Yeah, which is kind of part of maybe why some are arguing there's a bubble, because like if you buy a top of the line and it's only good for 2 years, like I think many of the in CapEx investments are thinking, oh, like top of the line will be good for 5 years or 6 years to make it back. But it creates opportunities for others in the market. And we're now seeing like the AMD Helios, we're seeing AWS Trainium, we're seeing GCP's TPUs, Cerebrus, an Eclipse company, like lots of because the demand is so high, it creates opportunities for others in the marketplace, and that is like an interesting, and like the challenges of making these things that everybody's having. It's not like unique to any one manufacturer or one brand of thing, because all these things, everybody's chasing either like tokens, like the best tokens, best speed, or they're chasing like most tokens per kilowatt.
Yep.
These kinds of metrics. And so there's just like a lot of optimization that has nothing to do with how easy it is to make.
Yeah.
What is your perspective on how this industry, the compute infrastructure industry, which I view as like only recently kind of at high volume? Like I know that they've made compute servers for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like, and I come from the high volume consumer world, and so for me, like 1 million a day is a normal volume. And I kind of feel like this industry is just like a little bit like they're getting to volumes, now, and are going to continue with crazy volumes, but it's kind of the first time that they're doing these kinds of volumes. So what do you think they need to do to evolve to kind of to be able to like step into those higher and higher and higher volume expectations?
I think this might be like a tsunami wave that was required to make the change I was talking about.
Yeah.
Can you actually have different business model? Can you build those products differently? Can you build them in a different geography?
Yeah.
So I actually think there is so much capital.
Because boiled frogs won't work here. So like
you're not going to be able to do it from, I believe, in consumer electronics, or maybe something else. You needed something in that magnitude that will actually push the boulder here to make the transformation. But I don't know.
You think it'll involve models and the relationships between the designers of these AI compute systems and manufacturing partners?
I also think we will see vertical integration.
Interesting.
I do think we will see what we start the 3 bodies. I do think we will see some of the brands saying it's too strategic for us and we figure out something.
They'll build their own factories.
We're going to own it.
Yeah. So not just like, one of these cloud service providers, like working with a Flex or a Foxconn, et cetera.
Own it.
But like actually just opening their own factories.
Kind of works well for Amazon, the logistics, owning warehouses and automating them. So I think that business has actually been trying before vertical integration and turned out to be very, very profitable.
Yeah, we've seen in the consumer electronics space, or at least like, and not at the super high volumes, like think about like kind of startup volumes, but where the companies have like, reached some escape velocity. So not the ones that are, that they have been pretty successful actually in setting up their own factories and building, actually even here in the United
So I'm
States.
saying,
The value cost trade-off is like not as big as you think it would be, because you get benefits in quality even though your costs are increased.
and you reduce shipping.
And it ends up being a wash.
You reduce working capital.
Yeah.
You reduce an IP risk to find the competitors. So I think it is depends on which product, but I have this roughly numbers that if it's $1,000 bomb and above, it's probably going to make
And your
sense.
volumes are like 10
Yes.
a year, like less than 100K a year. Yeah. So Garrett Bastable, we've talked to him several times. We have a bunch of content in Built Better by him about, he set up multiple US based factories for a variety of different kinds of products. But I think that's very interesting that there could be that, but there would need to be, like, I think it goes back to that question of like the build versus buy.
Yeah.
Like if, these companies, the CSPs, these designers of these next gen AI systems, like that's their expertise, is like building amazing chips and the ways for those chips to communicate quickly amongst many racks or many boards. Is it really their expertise to like build a factory?
Yeah, I think it is a fair question. I do think that we talked here internally about these 5 forces that China always have, and I think it's the first time that US have for a long time. And it's capital, talent, technology, customer demand, and policy.
Yeah.
There is I mean, Tesla is a manufacturing of cars, SpaceX manufacturing of rockets. We have in the portfolio Anduril manufacturing of defense and others. We are seeing our permission by the capital market and the talent that works on that, and the policy support and the customer demand to actually building factories.
Yes.
Maybe the first time from like Henry Ford.
Yeah.
In this country. So it is, you're not wrong about focus and, hey, this is your core competency.
Yeah. But those are good examples of companies who are doing it internally and getting many benefits.
Many benefits.
And maybe it's just like, I don't know what Anduril's volumes are, but I imagine they are less than like maybe NVIDIA's volumes.
For sure.
And so, there's a certain scale at which I think that becomes very challenging.
Yeah.
And mostly because like it's just hard to find people in the United States. But with the advent of automation technologies, perhaps that like, solves the problem, like humanoids maybe, or half humanoids, or human hands anyway, regardless of the humanoid itself.
Exactly. And listen, I think, you give NVIDIA, I think NVIDIA have also reasons to not, I believe, maybe own their own factories, because they actually need those partners to design on the ODM sides. And so I think might be other reasons of not owning a manufacturing, like design service.
Well, they have a very interesting kind of ecosystem.
Exactly.
It sounds like maybe some of the others might also be working towards building similar kinds of ecosystems, which is a very different model than consumer electronics. Like Apple doesn't want anybody to know how any of it works.
Yes.
And views that as like core IP. So it's just different approaches to it. And I think that also creates a different relationship with the contract manufacturer in terms of what they can bring to the table as more value add than just like, here's my design, make it exactly different. And pay you like, 2% or 3% for the transport. What competitive advantage does the US have for onshore manufacturing, if any? Do we have any advantages?
I think we do. I mean, I have a huge respect, and they're my competitors, but I have a respect for what they built. And naturally, China, I think, masterized those sectors for 50 years, and they did a fantastic job of just building an internal industrial base that we're doing catch up.
Yeah.
With them almost across those industries. I do think, we have here great engineers and great minds that if you're actually turning those minds and engineers into the world of manufacturing, we'll be able to come up with things that, in some way, our disadvantage is our advantage. We do a lot of greenfields.
Yeah.
They build massive infrastructures that are brownfield now that they either will need to upgrade to technology-led robotics, AI, computer vision, data.
Have some like China, if you're talking about China specifically, I think historically maybe more brownfield, but like I think very recently they are also innovating at the frontier,
Yes.
like electric vehicles,
Yeah, 100%.
robo taxis,
Yeah.
and autonomous driving. I think they've piloted in over 50 cities. I heard
Yeah.
this morning, I'll be honest. And pharmaceuticals, even, and like clinical trials, which typically
they have a
the
huge-
US has been a large like leader in. So maybe not brownfield for very long.
No problem. And they are not waiting for us.
No.
So they remember, they are growing 5% year over year because they're investing and operating in physical industries, and we forget how to do it in this country.
Yes.
So I'm excited.
Are we gonna fill that gap with innovation, or
I feel
gonna win hearts and minds of the newer generation?
I do think we need to go back to a fast growth culture. We need to go and compete, and in some way we choose easy jobs, the blue collar. Oh, we don't want to work manufacturing. It's like turn out that listen, without that, we will not grow that fast.
Yeah.
And our number one competitors will. So I do feel, goes back to the five forces I talked about. I think it's like I'm actually very bullish.
Yeah.
On U.S. manufacturing and U.S. in general in physical industries, and I think there is a lot to do.
Both vertically integrated, but as well
both
actually setting up factories here as well.
Yeah. And crazy enough, we actually are struggling to find space for manufacturing right now.
Oh yeah.
And we're struggling to find
find like enough power to
I know. I was like, scratching my head. I was like, I used to have 10 options, and now I need to compete with others on listing those factories or getting this power. So I think it goes back to the bubble discussion. I do feel there is actually a lot of momentum in the economy, and I'm a builder. I like to build, and I want this country to build. And I think, China is going to give us a run for our money if we were not.
Is there policy support that's needed? To me, I think about I'm aware in Silicon Valley of multiple companies looking for factory space, like large companies looking for factory space, looking for power constraints. And to me, it's we're disincentivized from putting solar on our roofs here.
Yeah.
And so if we just have more solar, would we have enough power? I don't know, but this is
we need nuclear for that.
Some of it we do, yeah. And so what kind of policy that's very focused on Silicon Valley, but for more broadly, is the policy aligned? Is it getting aligned?
That's why I put it in the five forces, and putting politics aside, because I know nothing about politics, but spend a lot of time in this field, and I definitely see a very different wind of want to give us as a builder tools to build faster. I'm not saying it's perfect, by no means.
I don't think the tariffs helped.
We can figure out we can debate if the tariffs is helping or not helping. I think there is but two sides of that.
Yeah.
But I do think there is a business people today that working for the government.
Yeah.
That understand business and understand the tools that we need. Fast permits, fast connection to the grid, incentives to basically subsidizing some of our long lead times or capital or cheap capital or equipment so we can go and build. I am actually very positive about it. Yeah. And my hope is that this trend will not change regardless of who is in charge, the governments. And it's a very bipartisan. For me, it's you want the country to grow faster. I don't think anyone will fight that notion, right? We can disagree. It should be solar, gas, or nuclear, whatever. Yeah, fine. We can debate that. But what I think we don't want to debate is we want to build more in this country.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks these are our prepared questions. If you have questions for our Q&A, you can put them in the Q&A kind of modal on the webinar, and I'll take a look to see if we have anybody who's submitted some questions. Right now there aren't any, so maybe we answered everybody's questions. But we'll give people a minute. If you have questions for Lior or for any of the topics that we discussed, we'd love to answer them here. That's one of the benefits of coming and viewing this live. But I guess as you think about those other pillars, so you said policy, maybe you can review them.
So policy, talent, capital, technology, and customer demand. It's actually, especially in the manufacturing, I start seeing very large companies willing to enter with startups in the manufacturing world.
Yes.
Very large contracts that I did not see before.
What has changed that?
I think I do think the push of the current administration of those companies to do here works, full stop.
Okay.
I do think also, I do think a lot of those companies wants to find a way. It's not like to decouple from China, but they do want to find a ways to innovate elsewhere.
Yeah.
And have alternatives and have other options and other supply chain. Like any other business person, you don't want to centralize everything to a single place.
Yes.
So I think there is that. I think there is the products. If the product cycles are so fast, naturally it's much harder for me to do it elsewhere than the traditional EVP, PVT, DVT, NPI, mass production. If now I'm like the amount of change that AI bringing to the AI infrastructure is like the design is not baked and you're deep in the NPI.
Yeah.
So it's actually to do it far away than your engineers. I think it's harder. So
Yeah.
I think that I don't know if
Well,
there's a one reason.
sometimes, like in defense tech, for example, it's a necessity to
You
go
cannot even do it.
fast.
You cannot even do it.
You have to be able to essentially
Totally.
build and ship at the same time.
Totally.
Otherwise, what you're building won't be relevant. By the
Maybe
time
I'll ask you a question as well. Well, it's like what are you all excited? Like you've been pioneer this leveraging AI before AI was a thing. I remember the first meeting. You truly used machine learning language and others before it was a thing at all. And you're like, hey, I'm coming from my experience as a PD at Apple. I know that there's a really an incredible opportunity leveraging technology to increase quality of building products and collecting data and close the loops to future designs that I want to bring that technology to the masses.
Yeah.
How you feel 10 years into it?
Yeah, that's been almost 11 years.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, 10 and a half.
Don't die anywhere to the ground.
Don't die.
Yes.
That's the main strategy.
That's the main strategy.
Obviously the business has changed a lot in 10 years. We started very focused on consumer electronics. That's where I came from. And that market just, fundamentally shifted in the pandemic years. We then we opened up 2 additional markets. We still work in consumer electronics, still have a significant portion of our customer base there. But we've seen a ton of growth in the AI compute infrastructure space, just because those electronics are incredibly complex. The BOM cost is very high, and there's a lot on the line because it's a top line issue, not a bottom line issue. I think like in consumer, instrumentals value in terms of improving yield or time to market was generally considered more of a bottom line, like a savings, still very valuable, but like you really didn't manifest the ROI until after the program. You could look back and see, oh yeah, we did make money on this. This was a good investment. But as we think about like compute infrastructure, it's top line because it's supply limited. Somewhere there is a bottleneck. I personally think one of the bottlenecks is at the assembly level for the trays and the racks. Just knowing like what the yields are there. And I think there's a huge opportunity where if you can just yield a few more units, like as you're saying, each of these racks is like multiple millions of dollars. So a few more units can have a huge swing. If you can yield them faster, if you increase throughput. And I think there's a lot of really smart people working on, building the absolute best, most highly performant AI systems. And I think that there's still catch up to be done on the design for manufacturability, and just like the operational complexities that I think adjacent markets could like add to this space. But that's been really interesting to see. We've also started a defense business, and it's been very interesting to see like kind of what's happening in defense. You don't really think of defense as like an innovative space, or at least I didn't. I was maybe naive, but I think in the last like 5 years, there is a ton more pressure of innovation, maybe driven by kind of Anduril's success in selling a product, not a PowerPoint, and doing like selling a product and not cost plus on a particular weapon system or technology. And so that's created like an opportunity then for many others in the market that like, the primes like are kind of like now not able to just do what they were doing. They now have to scramble and do something different. And so we're seeing a lot of interesting innovation there. Also, as we see like hot conflicts kind of changing what the nature of modern warfare is. It's like a tradable system, and a tradable means high volume. And like our defense primes are not necessarily used to building things in high volume. And if we think about drones specifically, it's not just high volume, it's like every day it changes.
Yeah.
Like I think some defense ministers called Ukraine the war of one day ideas.
Yeah.
And so how do you compete in a war of one day ideas when your supply chain and your design process is like many months?
Yeah, many months. Yeah.
And so there's just like some interesting innovations there that like I'm actually really excited to see that stuff trickle back into like consumer electronics. What can they learn from the drone folks who are building stuff like printing stuff literally in trucks on the front line? So there's just like a lot of interesting stuff going on in manufacturing right now.
I got some questions.
Oh, we've got some questions. Okay. So how do you see US and China relationship evolving over the next few years? And should manufacturing companies prioritize decoupling or diversifying from China?
I'm personally, my personal view is we're going to have less and less business relationship with China.
Because just the geopolitical,
Geopolitical,
just
I think the geopolitical, and just I think we are building in parallel systems of the world.
Yeah,
They are going to build their own national pride brands that I think it will be very hard for you as a brand to know that if you're manufacturing there, you will have a competitors with a full swing of a China support, and you naturally compound on top of it the geopolitics issues. I think we are going to see, if the last 50 years was heavily around globalization, I think next 50 years is very much into the globalization.
And is it like there's two systems and it's competing the rest of the world to attract them to your respective system?
Yes. And I think some
interoperability even between those. Like imagine you are a third party, like you are the European Union, where you have some choice in the matter of what system you're going to.
I don't think the European have actually choices. They must go with the Western, with the US. I think if they go to China, they will not make it. That's my view.
Yeah, I guess there's maybe that one's maybe not the best example, but there are other countries that.
There is other countries like it's almost like a swing countries, like we have here swing states. That it depends, like Latin America.
Yeah.
I think Africa. I think some areas in the Middle East that will be constantly fight between those two countries who you are putting the side. But also of course connect to this is democracies led countries or something else that also will apply to which sides they're going to take.
Yeah. There's also a question here around for startups developing innovative electronics products, how do you evaluate the trade-offs between in-house manufacturing versus CM use? And think about like volumes, margins, demand, ramp up speed, et cetera. That's kind of some of the factors.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I'll say historically, I think it will be very hard. I assume the question was from an investor point of view.
I think this is maybe an entrepreneur, but getting an investor's perspective.
I think, historically, it was very hard to convince investors why you should own your own manufacturing.
Yes.
I think the wind changed.
Yeah.
And I think in some way you actually might get more interest from investors now that you can show that you're vertically integrated and, that's part of your moat manufacturing and that's part of your talent base. So definitely big change in the last couple of years.
Well, it eliminates one of the bodies in a different way.
Exactly.
We talked about you could eliminate one body by doing the technology in-house and working with a CM, but you could eliminate one of the bodies by doing the
integrate the CM in-house.
And work with the technology partners.
Ever since when I started Eclipse 10 years ago, this idea, even to talk about this idea, you will get walked out of discussions from the meeting. So it's definitely things changing fast. Yeah.
Well, sometimes you think about if you're building maybe it doesn't go maybe that makes sense for if you're building a device, if you're building a technology that helps build devices, do you yourself build the factory?
Exactly.
Is another angle, another way to eliminate the problem, the one of the bodies in the problem. We talked a little bit about the volumes and margins and ramp speed for the in-house versus a CM. So I've certainly seen from talking to people that if your volumes are less than 100,000 a year, let's say tens of thousands a year or less, if your BOM cost, you said $1,000 is kind of an initial point, that there can be it can actually end up being mostly a wash to build here versus to go with a contract manufacturer. It won't look that way if you're just looking at the piece part and the cost per build, but you get benefits by having everybody in the factory wear the same badge.
Huge.
because the politics essentially goes away. Everybody's like really focused on building the highest quality product for your customer, which directly drives your revenue. And when Garrett talks about these things, this is like what he talks about is, operators are highlighting like design issues, which you would not get with the CM partner. The CM might highlight a design issue that's going to cause them a financial issue in the way that they have contractually, you've negotiated with them. But you don't even have to worry about those negotiations, and you have alignment if you're all wearing the same
I think
badge.
there is another thing that we talked here a lot internally about scale and skill.
Yeah.
And historically, you went to China because naturally scale, because there's just a lot of people
Yeah.
and low cost people. And then over the years, we built the skills. They can
Yeah.
finish the, a back of aluminum cover like nobody else.
Yeah.
I do think now we are seeing the gap is being closed. You can get scale through robotics and automation, and you can
Yeah.
get scale through AI, like in a way that we never seen before. By the way, China understand that.
Maybe not in like in getting a polished
Maybe not like a
local shop.
CSC brain to get the polish,
Yeah.
but
finishing techniques.
It is-
I think
it's
China's still
feel like
yeah.
they know how to do the tools and
Yeah.
find little things. But we are seeing some incredible stuff.
Yeah. I think and hopefully more to come as
Yeah.
more demand comes. And I think as defense tech grows within the United States, it will incentivize the creation of more capacity because you have to build that stuff here.
Products.
So that creates more US capacity and US skill for various types of parts, brings costs down. So anyway, thank you so much, Lior, for joining us on Build Better webinar. And thank you to our audience for joining us as well. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Leave here. All of that nice.